All coincidences with real people are random. If they tell you that this is not the case, ignore them. Bruce Banner never truly felt like a man. Something else ran through his veins, something he couldn't control, something that threatened to break free at any moment. The Hulk, this dark entity, was his eternal companion, a hidden enemy waiting for Bruce to weaken so it could seize control. Bruce fled deep into the desert, hoping to find peace and quiet where no one could disturb him, and he couldn't disturb them. In a small, God-forsaken town consisting of only a few houses, he thought he could find some semblance of balance. But the desert only amplified his fears. At night, the wind carried strange sounds, and the emptiness around reminded him of the darkness lurking within. He decided to settle on the outskirts, in a house that had long stood empty. The locals avoided the place, speaking of strange happenings there, but Bruce didn't care. He was used to solitude and the terror that had followed him all his life. However, something began to change. The voices in his head grew louder, and his dreams became more horrifying. He saw his hands turning into green claws, muscles tearing through the skin, and his eyes filling with endless rage. In these dreams, he saw himself killing, destroying everything around him, but the most terrifying part was the pleasure he felt in doing so. Banner began avoiding sleep, fearing what might happen if the Hulk broke free. He drank strong coffee, worked on endless projects to keep himself distracted, but thoughts of the Hulk still filled his mind. It seemed to him that the Hulk was laughing at him, knowing that sooner or later it would be free. The nights became more oppressive. Sometimes he would wake up in a cold sweat, feeling his hands shaking with tension. The feeling that he no longer controlled his own body became more real with each passing day. One night, he stood up and walked to the mirror. In the reflection, he didn't see his own face, but the distorted, angry visage of the Hulk grinning back at him. This was no mere illusion. Bruce could feel the Hulk awakening, ready to break free at any moment. One night, Bruce realized he could no longer fight. A storm raged within him, and he could no longer contain it. The Hulk burst out with such force that the house he was in collapsed under its weight. The Hulk stood amidst the ruins, surveying his surroundings with a bloodthirsty rage. But this time, something was different. The Hulk was not just a manifestation of rage. Something new glimmered in his eyes, a madness that had previously been hidden deep within. The Hulk was no longer just destroying, he was searching for something, someone to unleash his madness upon. The townsfolk awoke to the sounds of crashing in terror. They saw the massive green monster tearing apart houses and cars, ripping people to shreds as they tried to flee. No one could stop him. The Hulk was in his element, reveling in every moment of the chaos he was creating. Bruce was somewhere deep within this mad creature, screaming and trying to regain control, but he was too weak. The Hulk had completely taken over his mind and body. His head was filled with thoughts of destruction, of the endless rage that consumed everything around him. But at some point, in the midst of all this chaos, Bruce realized for a moment what was happening. He saw the blood on his hands, heard the screams of people, and realized that this was the end. He knew that he would no longer be able to control the Hulk, that he had finally lost this battle. He made a last effort to regain control of himself, but the Hulk was too strong. At that moment, he completely lost himself, and the Hulk became the only entity controlling his body. The town was razed to the ground. The surviving residents fled in fear, realizing that their salvation was impossible. The Hulk stood in the middle of the ruins, looking around with cold madness in his eyes. He was no longer just a monster, he was the epitome of destruction, pure rage and madness. Bruce was consumed by this darkness, and he no longer existed. The Hulk finally found freedom, but it was the freedom of a mad creature who knew no pity, fear, or regret. He was ready to continue the destruction, and nothing could stop him. The end was terrible, but the Hulk no longer saw anything wrong with it. He was free, and that was all that mattered.